Because the moment you stop overextending, you start shining in a way that commands respect. That is when people begin to see you differently, not as someone who is always available at their convenience, but as someone whose time and energy carry meaning. It is a powerful shift, one that changes how others perceive you, how they treat you, and most importantly, how you see yourself. For too long, many people believe that saying yes to everything makes them indispensable. They think that always being there, always giving, always making sacrifices will earn them more love, more success, more respect. But in reality, it often does the opposite. When you stretch yourself too thin, when you give without limits, people start expecting it rather than appreciating it. And the more you allow this to happen, the more you lose sight of your own worth. You have probably seen this play out in your own life. Maybe at work, where you take on extra tasks thinking that it will earn you recognition, only to realize that now everyone expects you to handle more without acknowledgement. Maybe in friendships, where you are always the one making plans, always the one adjusting your schedule, only to notice that the effort is not being returned. Or maybe in relationships, where you go out of your way to be available, only to find that your presence is being taken for granted. This happens not because people are unkind, but because they follow the pattern you set. If you show them that you are always available, they will believe that you always will be. But the moment you decide to stop overextending, the moment you start valuing your own time and energy, everything changes. When you set boundaries, people start respecting them. When you make it clear that your presence is a choice, not an obligation, people begin to appreciate it. And when you stop giving endlessly without expectation, you attract those who truly value what you have to offer. This does not mean cutting people off or refusing to help when needed. It means being intentional with your time. It means recognizing that you do not need to be everywhere for everyone at all times to be worthy of love and respect. It means understanding that your value does not come from how much you give, but from the impact you make when you do. Think about the people you admire the most. They are not the ones who are constantly running themselves ragged trying to please everyone. They are the ones who carry themselves with confidence, who know when to give and when to step back. They are the ones who make their time matter, and because of that, people respect them. They do not chase approval, they do not overextend, and they do not allow themselves to be taken for granted. Instead, they give with purpose, and in doing so, they create relationships and opportunities built on mutual respect. When you stop overextending, you also give yourself the space to grow. When you are constantly giving, constantly saying yes, constantly stretching yourself thin, you have little energy left to invest in yourself. But when you take a step back, when you choose where to focus your time and energy, you open up space for new opportunities. You start to attract the right people, the right experiences, the right successes, ones that align with your true worth. You deserve to be valued not for how much you give, but for who you are. You deserve relationships where effort is mutual, careers where your contributions are recognized, and a life where you feel fulfilled rather than exhausted. And that starts with one simple decision: to stop overextending and start valuing yourself. So let go of the need to always be available. Let go of the belief that you must constantly prove your worth by giving beyond your limits. Instead, embrace the power of balance, of intention, of knowing when to give and when to step back. Because when you do, you will not only command the respect of others, you will rediscover the respect you deserve for yourself. When you stop overextending yourself, you reclaim your worth. You shift from being taken for granted to being truly valued. The world does not respect those who exhaust themselves trying to please everyone. It respects those who know their value and set boundaries accordingly. Your time, your energy, and your presence are not infinite resources to be given away without thought. They are precious and they should be treated as such. When you make this shift, you will notice a change in how people treat you. Those who truly appreciate you will step up, and those who only took advantage of your availability will fade away. This is not about distancing yourself from others. It is about honoring yourself. It is about understanding that being less available does not make you less caring. It makes you more respected. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right kind of love will come to you when you start valuing yourself first. So step back, set boundaries, and watch as your presence becomes something people cherish rather than expect. Because the moment you start valuing yourself, the world will have no choice but to do the same. So don't be afraid to step back. Don't be afraid to say, I matter too. Because the moment you stop overextending, you start shining in a way that commands respect. And that, more than anything else, determines your value in the eyes of the world. There is a common misconception that in order to be loved, appreciated, or successful, one must always be available, always say yes, and always put others before themselves. While kindness and generosity are beautiful qualities, they lose their meaning when given without boundaries. The more you give without limits, the more people start expecting it rather than appreciating it. The truth is, the world does not reward those who overextend themselves at the cost of their own well-being. It rewards those who know their worth, who set boundaries, and who understand that their presence is something to be earned, not taken for granted. It takes courage to step back and say, I matter too. It takes strength to recognize that constantly giving, constantly saying yes, and constantly being available does not make you more valuable. It makes you easy to overlook. When you are always there, people stop noticing. But when you create space, when you show that your time and presence are precious, that is when people begin to see your true worth. This is not about arrogance. It is not about playing games or making yourself unavailable just to create a sense of mystery. It is about self-respect. It is about understanding that you are not obligated to give all of yourself at all times. The most successful and respected people are not those who are constantly running themselves into the ground for others. They are the ones who know when to step forward and when to step back. They are the ones who choose where to invest their time and energy wisely. If you look at any relationship, whether personal or professional, you will see that those who are constantly chasing, constantly overgiving, and constantly available often find themselves being taken for granted. Not because people intend to be ungrateful, but because human nature causes us to undervalue what is always within reach. The things we cherish the most are the things we know we could lose if we do not make an effort. The friendships that last are not the ones where one person does all the work. The relationships that thrive are the ones where both people invest equally. The careers that flourish are not built on working endlessly without appreciation, but on knowing your value and ensuring others recognize it too. Stepping back does not mean disappearing. It does not mean isolating yourself or withdrawing from the world. It simply means understanding that you do not need to prove your worth by always being available. When you step back, you give others the chance to step forward. You allow them to put in effort, to show their appreciation, and to value you in a way they might not have before. This is one of the most important lessons in life. Value is created by how you present yourself. If you carry yourself as though your time and energy are infinite, others will treat them as such. But if you show that your time is meaningful, that your energy is valuable, and that your presence is a privilege rather than an expectation, the way people respond to you will change. The beauty of stepping back is that it allows the right people and the right opportunities to find you. When you no longer stretch yourself thin trying to please everyone, you attract those who truly appreciate what you bring to the table. The relationships that remain are the ones that are built on mutual respect. The opportunities that come are the ones that align with your true worth. The success you achieve is not because you were constantly chasing, but because you knew when to stand still and let the right things come to you. This shift in mindset is powerful. It is the difference between feeling exhausted and feeling fulfilled. It is the difference between being taken for granted and being truly valued. And it all starts with a simple realization. You matter too. Your time, your energy, your presence, they are valuable, and the moment you start treating them as such, the world will follow your lead. Success, love, and respect follow those who carry themselves with dignity. The way you present yourself to the world determines how the world treats you. If you act as though your time and presence are limitless, people will assume they are. If you give without boundaries, people will take without hesitation. But when you recognize your own worth, when you carry yourself with a sense of self-respect, others will begin to see you in a new light. It all begins with the way you value yourself. When you invest in yourself, when you take the time to grow, to learn, and to set standards for how you wish to be treated, you naturally command respect. You do not have to demand it. People can sense it. They can tell when someone is confident in their worth. This does not mean being arrogant or distant. It means knowing that you do not need to chase approval or overextend yourself to be seen. True value does not come from being constantly available. It comes from the impact you make when you choose to be present. Think about the people who inspire you the most. They are not the ones who are always at everyone's disposal. They are the ones who carry themselves with confidence, who give their time and energy in meaningful ways, who understand that their presence is something to be earned, not assumed. They are respected because they set standards, and in doing so they attract the right kind of people and opportunities into their lives. In relationships, both personal and professional, the same principle applies. If you give too much of yourself without expectation, people may begin to take your presence for granted. But when you set boundaries, when you make it clear that your time is valuable, others start to recognize and respect it. They put in effort, they make space for you, and they show appreciation for your presence. It is not about withholding yourself from others, but about ensuring that your presence is meaningful. Success follows those who understand this balance. In the professional world, the most respected individuals are not those who say yes to everything, but those who know when to say no. They understand that their skills, their time, and their energy are valuable resources. They do not waste them on things that do not serve them. Instead, they choose wisely, investing themselves in opportunities that align with their goals and values. This is what makes them stand out. When you carry yourself with the understanding that you have something valuable to offer, people start to see it too. Respect is not something that can be demanded, it is something that is earned through the way you present yourself to the world. If you allow yourself to be overextended, if you let people assume that your time is unlimited, then they will not think twice about asking for more. But when you establish clear boundaries, when you make it known that your time is a privilege, not an obligation, people start to appreciate it more. They start to treat you with the respect you deserve. Love too follows this same principle. Genuine love is not about being constantly available or giving endlessly without consideration. It is about mutual respect, about knowing your worth and allowing others to meet you at that level. When you love yourself enough to set standards, the right people will rise to meet them. The ones who truly value you will appreciate the effort it takes to be in your life. They will not take you for granted because they will understand that your presence is a gift, not a given. When you start valuing yourself, when you make your time something that is earned rather than assumed, you begin to attract the right kind of relationships and opportunities. People are drawn to those who know their worth. They respect those who carry themselves with dignity. They appreciate those who give their time, not out of obligation, but out of choice. The world responds to the way you present yourself. If you carry yourself as though you are always available, people will assume that you are. But if you move with confidence, if you set boundaries, if you make it clear that your time is valuable, the world will adjust. Success, love, and respect will naturally follow, because when you value yourself, others have no choice but to value you too. When you are always there, always saying yes, and always ready to give, people stop appreciating you the way they should. Not because they are unkind or disrespectful, but because human nature works in a way that makes us take things for granted when they are always within reach. The things we put effort into, the ones we have to work for, those are the ones we value the most. It is not about being distant or unkind. It is about understanding that if you are always available, people will start expecting you to be rather than appreciating your presence. Think about the last time someone truly expressed gratitude for your time and effort. Chances are it was in a situation where you had a choice to say yes or no, a choice to give your time or to keep it for yourself. When people understand that your time is valuable and not just something they can have whenever they want, they begin to respect it more. But when you give too much of yourself too easily, they stop seeing it as a privilege and start treating it as an expectation. This happens in all aspects of life. In friendships, if you are always the one making plans, always the one reaching out, always the one adjusting your schedule to accommodate others, at some point, people stop putting in the same effort. It is not because they do not care, but because you have made it so easy for them that they do not feel the need to do anything in return. The balance shifts, and instead of being appreciated for your effort, you become someone whose presence is assumed. But the moment you stop overextending yourself, the moment you stop being the one who is always available, something interesting happens. The people who truly value you start making the effort. They start reaching out, making time, and showing you that your presence actually matters to them. The same happens in the workplace. If you are the person who is always saying yes to extra work, always willing to take on more, always ready to step in, people begin to assume that this is just who you are. They stop seeing it as something special, something worth acknowledging, and instead they start expecting it. You might think that saying yes to everything makes you indispensable, but in reality it often does the opposite. The more available you are, the less people feel the need to appreciate the effort you put in. But the moment you start setting boundaries, the moment you start making it clear that your time is just as valuable as anyone else's, you will notice a shift. People begin to respect you more, your contributions become more noticeable, and you are no longer just the person who is always there. You become someone whose presence carries weight. This idea extends into personal relationships as well. Whether it is with family, a partner, or friends, being too available can sometimes make people take your presence for granted. If you're always the one giving, always the one making time, always the one putting in effort, the other person may stop realizing just how much you contribute. But when you step back, when you give space, when you allow them to miss you, you give them the opportunity to appreciate your presence in a way they may not have before. It is not about playing games or being manipulative. It is about understanding that your time and energy are valuable and should not be given away without thought. The most successful and respected people are those who understand this balance. They give, but they do so with intention. They are present, but they do not overextend themselves to the point where their presence is no longer valued. They know that by setting boundaries, they create a sense of appreciation and respect from those around them. The key is not to become unavailable, but to ensure that your availability is a choice, not an expectation. The truth is, when something is always within reach, people stop seeing its true worth. When something is rare, when it requires effort to attain, that is when it becomes valuable. The same applies to you. If you are always giving without pause, always saying yes without considering your own needs, you will find that people start expecting it rather than appreciating it. But the moment you begin to respect your own time, others will follow. It is not selfish to prioritize yourself. It is not wrong to set boundaries. In fact, it is one of the most important things you can do to ensure that you are truly valued. Because the more you value yourself, the more others will value you too. Have you ever noticed how we chase what seems just out of reach? There's something fascinating about things that are rare, about moments that don't come easily, about people whose time and attention are not available to just anyone at any moment. The truth is, in life, whether in relationships, careers, or self-worth, being too available can make people take you for granted. It's not because they are unkind or disrespectful, but because human nature tends to devalue what is always within reach. When something is rare, it becomes special. Think about the things you treasure the most. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a meaningful friendship that took years to build, or a gift that came after immense effort. These are the things we remember, the things we cherish. Now compare that to something you can get at any time, in any place, without any effort. The more accessible something is, the less we truly appreciate it. This is not just a concept that applies to material things, it applies to you as well. If you are always present, always giving, always saying yes, people naturally start expecting it. Your availability is no longer seen as a choice, but as a given, and slowly its value diminishes. Imagine a beautiful painting in an art gallery. It is admired, respected, and valued because people know it is not something they can have whenever they want. Now imagine that same painting being placed on a busy street corner where people pass by every day. Over time it becomes part of the background, not because it has lost its beauty, but because it is always there, always visible, and never out of reach. The painting didn't change, but people's perception of it did. This is exactly what happens when you make yourself too available. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the same principle applies. If you are always the one initiating, always the one making time, always the one adjusting, people start expecting it rather than appreciating it. When you do too much, you unintentionally teach others that they don't need to put in effort to keep you around. But the truth is, mutual respect and effort are what make relationships strong. If only one person is always available, always giving, and always present, then the balance is lost. The moment you step back, the moment you stop making yourself easily accessible, you give others the chance to show that they value you. In the professional world, the same rules apply. If you are always ready to work, always saying yes to extra hours, always available to fix problems, people start taking your hard work for granted. Not because they don't appreciate you, but because they assume you will always be there. But the moment you set boundaries, the moment you start saying, my time is valuable too, that is when people start seeing your worth. It is not about arrogance or being difficult. It is about respecting yourself enough to ensure others do the same. This is not to say you should become distant or unavailable just for the sake of it. It is about balance. It is about recognizing that your presence, your time, and your energy are valuable. When you value yourself, when you don't give away your time freely without thought, the world starts to notice. Your presence becomes something meaningful rather than something expected. Think about the moments when you have truly appreciated someone's time. It was probably because it was given with intention, with purpose, not because it was simply always there. That is the key to maintaining value, being present, but with purpose. Offering your time and energy, but in a way that shows it is a choice, not an obligation. People respect what they have to work for. This is not about playing games or being unavailable for the sake of appearing important. It is about recognizing your worth and making sure that others do too. When you stop saying yes to everything, when you stop making yourself accessible at all times, something amazing happens. The right people will start making the effort to reach out to you, to appreciate you, and to value your time. So take a step back when necessary. Understand that being too available does not make you more valuable. It does the opposite. The more you respect your time, the more others will respect it too. Because true value does not come from how often you show up. It comes from the impact you make when you do.